Okay, I think we're going to get started going through the report. So our plan, thanks to those who've showed up, is to, hopefully everybody got a copy, went out early this morning of the report. We're going to go through just section by section, and if there's anything you see, that needs to be corrected or, that you think was missed, let us know. And we'll just go through, it'll be up on the screen. You can look at it on your laptop. If you didn't get a copy and want it emailed, let us know. And we'll work our way through it. Okay, so I think starting with this opening of the session, we'll just, any corrections needed in section 1? How about section 2? Okay, section 3, I'll give everybody a minute to read through it because there's a bit more there.
Chris?
Paragraph 13.
13?
Yeah, of section 3.
Okay.
Are we there now? Yeah, okay.
Sorry, am I jumping ahead? Sorry.
No, you're fine.
No.
But anything in section 3 is fine.
Okay. That's not my recollection of the...
Speak closer into the mic.
Sorry. Conference board recommended not reducing the number of MSAP seats. Did Canada vote in favor of that? Can we check the vote on that? I thought we voted against that. I thought we said we're okay with the seats being reduced, the number of seats being reduced.
So that was my understanding.
We could just check on that one because I know I spoke against the motion.
We have 5118.
5 in favor? Oh, so it's just. Well, you have number 13, you have. Other numbers are different there. Wait. We're on the one about not reducing the number of MSAB seats, so 14. So somehow the numbers are different from what we're looking at on the screen, but.
Pardon? I can't hear. I think it's backwards, that's all.
Sorry?
So there was 14 for the,
It's this one, correct?
yeah, so it should be 0 in favor, 11 abstentions and 14 no's.
We need to lose this first. We need to lose this first.
Yeah, I don't have the Canadian vote for Canada.
Well, I'm looking
so-
for it.
We have a
Okay,
but I should clarify this.
okay. Yeah, I made it.
Okay, we're going to go back to the recording to verify what the vote was there. So we'll just flag it for now and keep going. Okay, so anything else in section? Go ahead, Forrest.
Yeah, excuse me, on line 6, CB noted relationship between spawning biomass and recruitment is unknown. Could we add there that small spawning biomass can trying to think how to shorten this, produce a good recruitment event and vice versa. Large spawning biomass can fail to produce a good year class.
Yeah, let me just capture it and then I'll tell you where. Because it was said. Okay, so I think the numbers are different, but, okay. So it's adding to that sentence, although although recognized small spawning biomass can produce a strong recruitment event. Does that capture it?
Yeah, that captures it. Thank you.
Although recognize that, small spawning. So after although, we had recognize that. Okay, great. Anything else? And do our online people have audio? I can't see hands. Okay. Anything else on section 3? Okay, we ready to go on to the fishing season opening and closing dates? I was just saying to Jim, we don't really have a rationale in there for the motion that did pass in Canada, and I mean, they're both weird for the US side, and there's no rationale for the closing date that did pass. So if you want anything added there about achieving the longest season possible, giving administrative limits or anything like that, we can add it. Go ahead.
I'd just like to have something in there for market conditions. We've been with the longer season. The guys that I represent, anyways, have expanded into local markets, and they would like to see as long a season as possible. So something in there about market conditions, please.
I think when the U.S. spoke to the motion, they mentioned long a season as possible as well. Oh, sorry. When the U.S. made the motion for the end date, they spoke to the long, part of the rationale they provided was as long a season as possible. That was my recollection when I think it was Pear made the motion. So I think there was that rationale put forward.
And that's up above. If people wanted the longest season possible, given administrative constraints faced by U.S. management agencies. And I can bring that down and add also for market conditions. Okay, so conference board noted that as long a season as possible benefits the markets as well as providing maximum fishing opportunity.
As long as season.
Yeah, we'll say given administrative constraints or
Either
something.
no, you care.
U.S. administrative constraints, because I don't think Canada has administrative issues.
You're over it.
Can you see mine?
I like your style. I like your style.
Providing maximum fishing.
We got through the meeting yesterday after 9, and she was basically a one-man person to do it, to get it down the best she could. And of course, she's fact checking.
Okay, Anything,
So you're just,
we ready to go to section 5? Mortality limits?
so she's had to probably spend 6 hours to make this process all through.
Malcolm, your mic is on. Did you have something? Okay. We're on section 5, the mortality limits. If there's anything that was missed there that you wanted or not right, let us know. That's kind of a key section, and we tried to capture as much as we could in the tables and all of that. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, Linda, I was just gonna, maybe by paragraph 23 or before 23, I think one of the points we made was that U-26 compensation was part of the interim agreement and should not be considered this year until a longer term agreement is reached.
I think that's in paragraph 23, isn't that? Or what, was there something there that you didn't think caught it?
Yeah, I mean, I think 23 reflects the amount of reduction that Canada was actually taking. But there was the overall concept that U-26 mitigation was part of the interim agreement, and that's expired, and it shouldn't be considered unless there's a longer term agreement.
Okay. So you want to add that about a longer term agreement?
Well, I think I'd start a new paragraph before 25, and I would just say the U.S. delegation to the conference board noted
Okay, so noted that U-26, say it again, what you want there?
noted that U-26 compensation was part of the interim agreement and has since expired. And that U-26 compensation should not be considered this year, but as a part of the long-term agreement. Actually, let's just shorten that up. U-26 compensation should not be considered outside of a long-term agreement.
Long-term agreement.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else we missed? Jeff?
Hi, Hi, Linda. I'm looking at the table that's actually up on the screen there. It's the TCEY table.
Yeah.
And Kent mentioned yesterday that I had left the 2C 2022 TCEY in there, which was kind of messing up the numbers in the final column. And so maybe you wanted it in here in this form for the US. I'm not sure if you wanted it like this. It does show the correct reduction in pounds at 2.62 million pounds reduction from the Alaska areas. But I didn't know if you wanted me to send it back to you without the Canadian TCEY in there for 2022. That would drop that total number, or we could leave it this way. It's fine with me as well.
So I'm not sure I could hear all that. These are the tables that, you're looking at the top table.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. The one at the TCEY is on the top table there.
And what were you saying was, I couldn't quite.
Yesterday after the meeting was over, Kent flagged that I forgot to pull the 2022 TCEY out for 2B on the very top of that box behind you there. If you pulled out the 2022 TCEY, then the total US allocations add up at the end. But that 41.22 includes the Canadian number, so it's kind of hard to compare the US reductions with that number in there. But again, the number on the bottom, the reduction in pounds from 2022 is correct at 2.62 million. So I don't know, maybe it's fine like it is, but I think it was Kent that pointed it out yesterday. I said, I sent another version. I took the Canadian TCEY out for 2022 to get some better numbers for the US side only. But I think this works too.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So because we don't have a number in there for, I guess I would leave it up to 2B. That reflects what was taken or what the TCUI was in 2022 and what the total TCUI was. And we can take 2B out if that would be your preference in that motion, or leave it in.
In hindsight, Linda, I think it's okay. I think it's okay to have it there. I just wanted to flag that. We can take it out of there, but that is the 2022 FCEY up on the top, and so the Canadian part is blank. So I guess if they plug their number in there, then the rest of it would come back together. So anyway, it's probably fine the way it is. Sorry.
Okay. Good clarification anyway. Okay, people have a chance to read through this. Longer term, it needs to be hyphenated, but that's like detail stuff.
Linda, I might be missing it, but I don't see where it seems like in both motions there was a comment about we were looking at a 1-year time frame, that this was a 1-year agreement.
With respect, I don't know that there was agreement. Be the wrong word. Thank you.
Okay.
I think, look at, it's C. C mentions that.
I was just looking for it, thanks. So it's C that mentions that. Represents a compromise around area stakeholders. I guess this should probably say among U.S. area stakeholders, intended as a 1-year bridge to a longer term commitment on distribution. I mean, if there's more you want added to highlight 1-year agreement, we can add that. And I know the 3B, I thought Dave was going to work that into his sort of noted formula, but we probably are going to want to take those bullets and turn them into sentences the way everything else is, right? We can do that later. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
Chuck,
sorry,
you have
go
a
ahead.
question?
I'm sorry.
I guess it's a question
A
of
little
process.
closer to the mic there.
Sorry, I guess this is a question of process. You suggested just now, Linda, that I guess we can ask if 3B has some other comments on it. If they're not here at this meeting, do they get to add their comments later after the report is written?
I think you misunderstood me. So if you look at F, the section on 3B, everything else is in sentences. 3B has 3 bullets that didn't get worked into sentences. And Dave likes to go through and turn everything into noted or recommended, but sentences. And I didn't get that done and thought when he went through it, he would do that to these, but we'll just turn it into that kind of IPHC speak. I'm not adding anything, just changing format.
Yeah, thanks. And we have fun this side, some learning to do as well on that. So.
Okay, anything else in this section? Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
On A, I know we're backtracking a little bit, but on A, it mentions the new estimates of natural mortality, and that's something that realistically is going to come up every year for a while now. It is pretty important. We see it make a huge difference in our estimations of TCUI and what is sustainable in this stock. And it's probably important for the administrative record that we get off on the right foot here. And I mean, it may be semantics, but it says here the model and revised natural mortality created an optimistic estimate of stock productivity, but the FIS is capturing significant declines. The new estimate for natural mortality is largely untested. it may be beneficial for us in the future to rephrase that now, because the new estimate for natural mortality is tested. That's how we got it. It's been tested and vetted. That's how we came to the determination that we need to change it in the models. So to say that it's not tested might throw a wrench and might be something that could be used later. I think that just getting it more accurate, that maybe the conference board noted concern, but to say that we thought that it was untested is not accurate.
Okay, so this is straight from words that Jeff said yesterday. We can say, so I hate to, like make up new language, is we could say less tested, less time tested, or what was your suggested wording, Brian?
That the conference board noted concern for, but I don't know if it's Jeff's language. I'm comfortable leaving it if Jeff is. I just wanted to flag that.
I guess when I said it was untested, I was thinking as a fisheries management tool in the halibut sector. It's not something that has been vetted through the IPHC or through the MSAB, and it just seems like it's not something that we've used it, and there seems like there's a lot of uncertainty there, and so that's why I said that maybe it isn't untested as Brian had mentioned, but I think it's untested as a management procedure in the halibut fishery.
That sounds good to me. I think that.
Chris?
So your point was that it wasn't evaluated through the it hasn't been evaluated as part of the MSE process. Is that?
Yeah, I'm not saying that it has to be. I'm just saying that it hasn't been yet tested, and it hasn't been applied to the management procedure in this fishery to this date. So it just.
Well, I think it automatically gets, the MSC uses the parameters of the stock assessment. You can ask Alan, but I mean, we kind of actually said this, and.
Or we could just soften it to say is less time tested as a management procedure. Does that work?
That works great for me.
Okay.
But it's not a management procedure, it's a parameter in the model.
Oh, yeah, right. As a model parameter,
I have a suggestion.
or just less time tested? Go ahead, Mel.
The new estimate for natural mortality is largely not time tested. Because, I mean, it has been tested, but it has not been time tested, so.
So less time tested, because they have been testing it since 1998. I mean, that was kind of his point. They've been easing into this parameter, so.
Well, the change is not tested. The change in the model is not tested, because we just changed it.
Well,
I mean, I think that was Jeff's intent, that this is a new change, and we haven't.
So we don't really like to re-change language and stuff on these things, but I think I get the feeling that the point made is with the new, using the change in natural mortality provides, as Ian, as you already said, a more optimistic outlook on stock productivity, right? I think the concern is when we're at the low levels now, maybe putting too much emphasis on that optimistic future than what we need to deal with right now. But I don't know how people feel about rewording something like that, or we can just explain that as when we give the report to the commissioners if they ask.
I think the simple solution is just say the new estimate for natural mortality is less time tested, rather than saying it's untested. And then it's not changing what you said much. It's just.
Yeah, something like, its effects on management procedure or harvest level are largely less time tested, something like that. I mean, I know this is like semantics and things. I just feel like this might come back and bite us in the butt.
Did you want more? The impacts on.
I think
Just
less is
probably
more
on-
here. I would just say less time tested.
Brian, is that okay with you to just say less time tested, or did you want more in there?
Sure, less time tested, but if it comes back, I'll be here.
Okay. So take off as a model parameter because it's a model input or something else. So we'll just less time tested. Okay. And then I added US below. Yeah, you got that. Okay. Anything else?
Chris?
I keep forgetting to look up.
Scroll down to what was paragraph 26.
Canadian
Yeah, that one.
stakeholders?
What is now paragraph 29? Okay. And I apologize, I should have sent in my comments on this and I didn't, so my apologies to the chairs. But I think we need to change that second line of it. That U26, instead of compensation, we would have used the word mitigation, needed to be included. And then I made the point that Canada does not agree with and has never agreed with using, and I would change the wording to O32 biomass distribution for distributing the coastwide TCEY. And I noted that Canada and the US agreed at MSAB that the distribution of the TCEY can be science-driven, policy-driven, or some combination of both.
Okay, so U26 mitigation needed to be included.
Yeah.
And then tell me the other.
Next part, Canada does not agree with using, don't you take out the fizz for distribution and say O32 biomass distribution for distributing the coastwide TCEY, comma.
O32 biomass distribution for
distributing yeah.
Distribution for
distributing the coastwide TCEY, yeah, okay, comma, noting Canada and the US agreed
okay.
at MSAB that the TCEY distribution can be science-driven, comma, policy-driven, or some combination of both.
Okay, and then I think the next one, the sentence US stakeholders noted, that needs to be a separate line. It should have been part of that paragraph, so I just moved that down.
Thank you.
Can be science-driven, policy-driven, or some combination of both. I think that's right. And then space down the next sentence to be, it's next, the next paragraph. And that's, you probably, I don't know if we want noted, yeah, he'll have to mess with that stuff. The voiced opposition, he probably wants noted opposition, right? And the one from Canada. Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Actually, I was going to go down to the next paragraph. So if you're done with this one, we can move on, or I'll hold my comment.
Are you, okay, so you're on US stakeholders noted, that one?
No, I'm on 31 now. CB noted.
31, wait.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Oh, okay, yeah, my numbers are all different now. Okay, so yes, the CB noted shared conservation concerns and support for smoothing or limiting annual change.
Yeah, I think I would just say, and expressed support for smoothing or limiting annual change as part of 2023 TC and future TCEYs. I mean, the thought I want to incorporate in there is that we agree that it's a good thing to do this year and in future years.
Okay, that's, I think that, okay.
Correct.
As part of 2023 and future, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Wow, the room's filling up. Anything else on this section? That was easy. Okay, so section six, the regulatory proposals. And I think we have added to the proposal about the 3 fish limit since what was sent out last night. Chuck, we'd missed some of Chuck's rationale and that's been added.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, and then, so if you go down to B, what right now is B? Under, yeah, I think we want that to be a separate paragraph. See where it's following the U.S. delegation moved an amendment because, well, I don't know, maybe not. Is that how we want it? Maybe it's,
I don't know, it's all part of it's all part of the same discussion, right?
okay, fine. It just looked like it was switching back
Follows
and
up.
forth. Nope, just leave it. I guess so.
I don't think you need following in that. I would just simply have the U.S. delegation moved an amendment to the proposal.
Yeah, following from the U.S. delegation. So take out following from the, or following from. The U.S. delegation moved.
And the colon.
Okay, does that look okay? I think that was the really most challenging of the proposals. So if people are good with that one. And all the votes, if anybody else sees anything off on votes, let us know and we'll check that. Okay, anything else in 6? Nothing more? 6 looks good, the whole section on proposals. Okay, how about section 7, the bycatch section? Go
Sorry,
ahead, Chris.
Going back to section 6.
We can go back to 6.
Sorry. Would have been section
Closer to your mic, Chris.
3.2, 6.3.2. I just think we need a new paragraph that notes that Canadian Conference Board members express concern with having a fixed number allocation, and instead they should be tied. Any allocation should be tied as a percentage tied to abundance. And I think the point was also made that Canada also has treaty obligations to with First Nations.
Where, do you have a preference on where that's added?
I think you just put it right at the, right under, I guess it's paragraph, the last paragraph in that section right now, just add it.
So at the end of 6, of the last one? A new paragraph or?
New paragraph, paragraph 7.
So noted concern.
With having fixed number allocation, having a fixed number allocation.
Not tied to abundance.
Yeah. And that Canada has existing First Nations treaty obligations. And I think we made the point that we're in the process of negotiating others. Is that what we said?
I couldn't hear that.
That Canada has existing treaty obligations, First Nations treaty obligations, and that Canada is in the process of negotiating further treaties.
Canada is in the process of negotiating.
Sorry, just a point of clarification, sir. I think we used the word treaty obligations, but one of our members from First Nations has reminded that the wording should be, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I think, the language with the treaty it rubs wrong. I think we're going through reconciliation process through nation to nation. So add that.
So is in the reconciliation process is better wording? Okay. Make it a separate sentence. So also that Canada has existing First Nation treaty obligations and Canada is in the reconciliation process.
Two separate sentences.
No, so after, not tied to abundance. So the first sentence, put a period after abundance, and let's start a separate sentence.
I don't know whether it's called a reconciliation process, but.
Oh, is that not right? Is reconciliation process not right? Or process of reconciliation, would that be?
Yeah, thank you. The process of reconciliation
Okay.
is better. Thank you.
Is in the process of reconciliation. Okay. Okay, great. Thanks for that. Anything else on section 6 that people have noticed? Good. Okay. Section 7, the incidental bycatch section.
Chris, did you have a point in there? I can't remember. I know you sent some stuff earlier.
No, it was more just on the final after bullet E. Again, my apologies. This is probably what I sent in, but I think the clause D states. I think we can just put quotation around stirring both open, and it's just an editorial thing. Just an editorial.
So I didn't understand that. I can hear it.
Go to there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could just put the during both open, blah, 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 to the end and just put that in quotes, and you don't, it's not a separate, like you can just put that in quotation.
Oh, okay.
Because it says above, clause D states.
Dan, did you have a comment or question?
I did on an earlier section of this. If you go, when you're done with that paragraph, go up to the bullet right before this series. Keep going. Keep going. Okay, wait a sec. I got an old version. Huh, okay.
Stand down or is that?
Yeah, we were doing some typo correction this morning, but, yeah, so, and anything else, or was it fixed what you saw?
Let me look at paragraph 61 is where I was. I think that gets broken into two paragraphs. There's two concepts there. The one is whether or not you can prohibit bycatch or impose monitoring standards on compacting parties, but there's also the fact that monitoring strategies need to be tied to monitoring objectives, and it's a very complex process to set these standards.
So also noted that monitoring, so, okay, so
That's
the
fine.
USCB also noted that monitoring strategies need to be closely tied to monitoring objectives, which can be complex, and we'll make that its own paragraph.
Yeah, and I would move that paragraph up one notch because it kind of flows from 60 above.
Flow, we're all about proper flow. Okay, anything
Robert?
else? Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, I remember asking the question regarding what the observer and EM coverage is in all your fleets. So I was just wondering if we could add that in there. So because this issue seems to come up every year, so it'd just be nice to see what percentage of your directed and non-directed fleets are covered by EMs or observers, and that way we can look at it and see any progress that is made on the U.S. side in terms of enhanced EM and observer coverage. Thank you.
So what is it that you want to put in, Robert? You need to provide the wording.
I'm not very good at wordsmithing, but we discussed what the coverage, the percentage of the coverage of the fleets and the trips that require an observer or EM cameras.
Go down that road, are we going to go down? Well, you know.
What'd you say, Dan?
Well, I'm just trying to think where that leads, because if you really want to know that stuff, then you want to know how the wrecked fisheries are monitored, and you want to know how the subsistence fisheries are monitored, and it gets into it gets into these metrics. Well, who's to say that the percent coverage by trip is the right metric to look at a monitoring program from?
That's not what we discussed, Dan. I just asked what the coverage of the current regime is. And I think that needs to be noted in the minutes.
Yeah, so I think we can just add that Canada CB delegation asked for an update on coverage rates in the commercial. You were just looking for commercial?
Commercial, yeah, just in the commercial directed and non-directed.
Okay. All right, and do you have an idea of where that should go?
I have no idea. I'm not a wordsmith. I just noticed that it's not in there, and I would like to see it in there. Thank you.
Under 12, I think. Well, not much. Okay. Numbers are all up. It's below 60. In response to comments from the U.S. delegate, so we did. I think that's kind of where the conversation occurred, right?
I can't find that now.
So at the bottom of that.
Oh, here it is. Okay,
Yeah,
so,
it could go on anywhere.
so at the end of that section, let's just say, I got big type.
One would think it should be a part of section A, would it not? Which is where you're directly talking about the monitoring.
Yeah.
We could add it there, so,
That's right.
okay. Canadian CB members requested an update on, what do we have, US monitoring coverage? US observer,
EM and observer coverage in
US
the directed and non-directed
observer and
fishery.
EM coverage in directed and non-directed commercial fisheries.
Yes. And if we could get the percentages for each different fleet in there as well, please.
So coverage in percentage terms,
Yes, please.
or we just put percentage at coverage? Okay, coverage, including percentages in directed and non-directed commercial fisheries. You want to say off Alaska, or you wanted it for all?
In US waters, in all US waters, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ought to include both countries probably, but we can add it, the US.
Well, I mean, we're at 100% observer coverage in all our directed and non-directed groundfish fisheries. So, I mean, if you want to add that in, you can, but I mean.
Commercial fisheries, we'll just, okay, off the US. Okay.
But I mean, the point being is the percentages of what's covered is not in the minutes. And I think that needs to be in the minutes because.
We did discuss it.
We did discuss it.
Yeah.
And you did report on what was covered in the directed and non-directed fisheries. So I'd like to see that in the minutes, please.
Okay, anything else? In this section? We good on the bycatch? I mean, it's sort of a bycatch and monitoring section. I guess we could add that to the title, but, okay, so other business. We get your last name spelled right, Brian?
Yeah, it is, but a vice chair is only elected on an annual basis, I think. In the terms of reference, it's just a one-year appointment. So I'm maybe just add that in there because it says election of co-chairpersons for the next biennium, but a vice chair is just an annual appointment.
Okay, so we'll say for 1-year term by unanimous vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? So we still have to fix that one vote. Okay, do you want to wait to adopt this until we have that vote verified? Chris? Okay. Okay, so I guess we'll take, go ahead, Forrest.
Yeah, Linda, I had time to go back to section 3 and I noticed an omission that I'd like to add if we could.
Yep. Okay.
I'd like to add, and I'll just say it, read it, and then we can go back. The CB noted that the 3-year surplus is a short-term model that is primarily driven, and I can send this to you, primarily driven by recruitment and weighted age estimates, and by definition produces a number for fishing mortality that used for 3 years is not expected to influence spawning biomass up or down.
And is that all things he said yet?
Yeah, that was one of the major points that I was asking Ian about.
Okay. Can you send that and then say again where you wanted that inserted?
Yeah, it can go anywhere up below or above or in between the 4 points in that section, but I'll send it right now. Thank you.
So can we just clarify what's going to be inserted again? Sorry.
Do you want me to reread it?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks. So
Yeah, you bet. The CB noted that the 3-year surplus, I should say, surplus is a short-term model that is primarily driven by recruitment and weighted age estimates, and by definition produces a number for fishing mortality that, if used for 3 years, is not expected to influence spawning biomass up or down.
Okay, so I'm a bit lost here. I mean, or maybe that's because it does. That's why we have projection tables and 3 out, and you kind of see depending on what you're. Okay, but forget what I said. That if that's what you said, I kind of remember that being stated. Then that's okay. Then I should just shut up.
So, but do you want, is that something that, I mean, are you guys okay with this being the conference board noted, or should this be US conference board notice? Do you prefer it to say US or people?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't what we said, it's what Ian said in response to my question about the 3-year surplus modeling. I'm capturing what his response was.
Okay. That's right.
Well, would that, then, pardon me, would that response not show, okay, you are going to include that, Dr. Stewart? Okay, that's fine now.
And my email will not open right now, so sorry, I'll do my best here.
I think we got most of it, but maybe you could just read the part. Can you see the screen? Noted, maybe we say noted from Dr. Stewart's presentation that the 3-year surplus is a short-term model that is primarily driven by recruitment
And weighted age
and weighted
estimates.
age.
And by definition produces a number. And I can't read my screen and that screen at the same time because I have to have my glasses on to read that screen.
Okay, and by definition produces,
A number for fishing mortality
that is not expected to influence spawning biomass up or down?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay, anything else people have caught? Go ahead, Robert.
Just a point of clarification. When we vote on this, are the percentages for like the trawl, observer coverage, and the directed halibut fishery and pot cod fisheries, are those numbers and percentages going to be in the report, or are we voting on just what's written? Because I think it's important to capture those percentages.
Well, those weren't presented during the conference board meeting. We
But
could ask.
you did present them to me, so I mean, you talked about it.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, that's what we're going with. So I think those percentages need to be in there.
So there is a place where the percentages are in from what the information I had. I'm trying to remember where that is.
The contracting party annual report has numbers in there.
Oh, right. So we could pull them from there if you want. The contracting party annual report from the US report.
Yes, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Some of them were a little bit old, but we can try and come up with that. Okay, great. Good catch. So the votes got corrected.
Favor 0. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so should we take a break and I'll look for those numbers from in that report, unless Robert wants to find those numbers, and we can see about adding them. It seems a little odd, but we
If
can
you
do
could
that.
do that, that'd be great. Thank you.
What have we done?
So,
I guess we'll take a break while I try and find the numbers that Robert wants added to the conference board report from the contracting party report.
okay, because.
Linda?
Yeah,
Yeah, before we go, I caught a pretty major error in the rationale that I provided for 4B yesterday, and I said a 44% reduction in the snap gear in the commercial fishery, and that's supposed to actually be a positive 44%. So their snap gear commercial weight per unit effort was up by 44%, not down by 44%. So I think you're
okay,
going to find
got
that
it.
in section
It's H,
25H.
yeah.
Yeah, so we'll need to
And
reword that a little
right
bit.
by that 44%, just at, no, is the down 12%?
The down 12% is correct.
And just add up in front of
Yeah,
44%.
so you may need to rework the sentence just a little bit. It seemed like that was an important correction to be made, so I apologize.
We have to wordsmith that, some of that a little bit. There is a 4% increase in all sizes. We should add that to the next sentence. Yeah, I'm just trying to find, I'm going to go back to that monitoring section because the numbers that I said are in there. Actually, let me just get, okay. Well, so do we want to take a stand down while we work out what numbers we're putting in here? Because I'm not going to be able to do that in.
Yeah, because I want to add one, I mean, if I wanted to add one thing about Ian's
Go ahead
presentation
and I'll
too.
find numbers. Sorry, okay, go
If we
ahead.
take a stand down, I can come up with some language, because, I mean, if Forrest is going to put in that information about that, then I'm going to put in I want to put in the questions I asked him about the sacrifice of the future yield by what the yield that we take this year. But I'll come up with how I said it. I did ask him and it was said.
Okay, all right, let's take a stand down. You can think about that and I'll look for numbers. 10 minutes. Okay, I think we have just these last two things to add. Malcolm, I want to make sure you are happy.
Go yet, Malcolm.
So we're back up in section 3 under mortality limits and TCY, or section 3.1. And we've added under the paragraph that Forrest added about Dr. Stewart's talking to the 3-year surplus. We are adding the CB noted from Dr. Stewart that without strong recruitment, additional yield in the short term comes at a cost of future yield. So we got that in there. And then Robert, you're showing it? Oh, yeah, you got to get there. Okay. And then, where did we add? Under the bycatch section. That's some of what we're dealing with this year, is there's contradictory information. Yeah, where did we just add that other piece? You have it up there? But where do we have it? Oh, okay. It's a little bit, the flow is not great because where you asked for it is below where it is in the notes. But if you see on the screen, so we've added a reference to the report that includes it, and then also the statement that the no coverage vessels account for 0.17% of the combined U.S. groundfish and halibut harvest off Alaska in 2022. So that's information that I had just gotten from managers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then we fixed that vote that Chris had noticed there was a mistake. Is there anything else people have found or not found that should be in there? Okay, if not, then I think we're ready for a motion to adopt this draft report for presentation to the commissioners in a couple hours.
Someone make a motion.
Can someone
Robert?
make a motion? Thank you.
I'll make a motion to adopt the report.
Second.
Borrow your pen. Okay, we don't need a roll call.
I don't think so.
Okay. So any objection to the motion in the room, and if you're online, if you object, put your thumb down, I guess. So any objections to the motion? We good online too? Okay. All right, great. Then I think we're done.
Any abstentions?
Oh, yeah, any
Chris?
abstention.
Sorry, one last thing just before we break. Thank you to the chairs for all your hard work. Thank you to the IPHC Secretariat for supporting the process.
Oh,
We
yeah.
all really
My
appreciate
God,
it.
thank
Yeah, big thanks.
you. Easiest report writing I've ever done.
We got to add that in there. Yeah, it's something we'll add to the minutes is what our difference it makes having secretarial support doing this instead of just us trying to take minutes. So let's add that in. Okay, great. And then I think we're supposed to present this at 1:30 to the commissioners. And other than that, I think we're done. So thanks, everybody. I think it went pretty smoothly.
Is it 1 or 1:30?
It's 1:30.
1:30, okay.
Shoot. We're done.
Are we going to get copies of the finished
yeah.
report?
Yeah, once we finish fixing the, formatting, we'll send it out again to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Kathy.
Hey, Linda, could I ask you a process question?
Sure, is that Tom?
Yeah, this is Tom. I'm just puzzled because I don't understand this. When the discussion came up with the macaw yesterday,
Can you guys hear?
I mean, it became like an information presentation. There really wasn't a motion on the floor, I don't think. So was that just an information item and not an action item? I'm just so puzzled about it.
Are you talking about the 2A floor?
Yeah. When the macaw had their presentation on the 1.65. I mean, that came across more like just a presentation, an information, and not really any kind of an action item. Is that correct?
So the understanding we'd received is that they had identified a better process for achieving their objective with that rather than putting in IPHC regulatory language. So they gave us a presentation, talked about the issue, and then we did not take action.
Okay, that's fine. I just hadn't gotten the word because I was asked to second the motion or make sure a motion got made, and so I was kind of I kind of pushed it because that's what I was asked to do. So anyway, that explains that. All right, thanks. Anyway.
Yeah, and that was their preference that we not take action.
You did a great job this year. You and Jim, thanks very much. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, thanks, Tom.